In developing technology, there's an information explosion, and therefore, as one understands the operations of the machine, by analysis of its parts, by separating them, and see everything going on in terms of bits of information, but it is this extraordinary capacity of the more efficient computers solving instantly certain complex problems without knowing how it does it. Life comes at you from all sides, all over, everywhere at once. You are the most complex thing that has yet been encountered in the cosmos.
Can machines really think?
I don't believe that we can say machines do think.
Can my machine talk to your machine? Thanks, Mary. Here we go.
I got 5 on it. I got 5 on it. I got 5 on it.
Introducing Undercroft co-founder and chief propagandist, your fill-in, subpar host for this evening, Chris Macho Christ Wachowski.
Good evening. Welcome, everybody. As you noticed, I'm not John. I'm not Cochise. He was supposed to be here, but we got a call from the Russian mob asking for some money to get him back. We wanted to pay it, but we didn't think $1,000. It was a little steep, so we're just gonna play it by ear and see if they're gonna release him. Getting annoyed with him and just let him go. But anyway, so welcome to Guild Night. We've got a great speaker tonight. I've known this speaker all of my life, literally. But before we get into that, we've got some guild announcements. Guild members, you pay monthly, most of you. If you're looking to save some serious cash, I think it's 25%. You can switch to an annual membership. Those that have switched, I've not forgot about your shirts. They are coming, I promise. Our supply chain is a little bit messed up right now, but they are coming, those Error 404 shirts. Let's see. Also, we've got information coming soon about virtual offices. People that have their own companies looking to start their own businesses, getting an address with a hub zone can help you out and get some better contracts, give you a better chance to get better contracts. So that's coming soon. Also, make my life easier. If you're interested in giving a talk on the website, there's a call for papers. So if you want to submit a talk, go there, fill it out, and let's get some more talks coming in. Let's see, Project Baseline. As you know, registration is now open. There are only 15 spots left out of 20, so those are filling up quite fast, and we're about to close it off for guild members and open it to the public portion of it. As you know, as a guild member, you get a crazy discount, like stupid discount, like ridiculous discount. So if you're even remotely interested in it, at least talk to Adam about it. We've got spec sheets for the different classes coming out soon. And on the development center side of things, if anybody out there, I think tonight we've put the link out to quite a few places. So if you're not a member of the guild, you're just watching this for the first time, or if you're interested in an internship or practicum here at the Undercroft, hit Adam up at adam@theundercroft.net, and he will get back to you. Also, if you come to the facility, please bring a mask. If you don't have a mask, we will provide you a mask. And for upcoming events, when we know we're going to have more than 10 people in the building, we will be doing a touchless temperature thing on the forehead, like I saw at the sushi bar yesterday, which was pretty cool. So we're going to get one of those and try to keep everybody safe. And if you're sick, stay home. Yeah, that's it. So let's get into tonight's speaker. Like I said, I've known her. I'm looking at her. I can't not smile. But I've known her my whole life because she's my mom. But she's also a guild member. I don't think that I'm allowed to tell you some of the stories that I've heard, but I don't think any of the stories that I've heard are too out there. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to tell me some of those stories. Interesting thing is, a little ways back when I met General Dave Scott, who sits on the board of Undercroft, I was telling Cindy about it. She says, "Oh yeah, I remember briefing General Scott back in the day." That should just give you kind of a peek into the level of personnel that she's briefed. I'm not going to say it goes all the way to the top, but it goes pretty close. So with that, let's get into it, and here she is.
It's time for the pitch with Cindy Eccles.
Thank you, Chris. Good evening, everybody out there in COVID YouTube land. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight, hope to just go over some of the key elements of pitching. Now, if you thought you were going to tune in and learn how to pitch that awesome fastball, curveball for your next league game, I'm sorry, you've got the wrong channel. So tonight, we're going to talk about pitching ideas. We're going to talk about pitching products. We're going to be talking about pitching services. Not so much what those products, services, and ideas are, but how do you get them to the people who need to make decisions. We're going to talk a little bit about 3 main types of pitches. And I'll spend the bulk of my time on the real critical elevator speech. This is the one that gets your foot in the door. So that's where we're going to spend a little bit more time focusing on. We'll have a practical exercise. Folks in the room will get to build an elevator speech, and we'll do a quick run through just so we can get the first taste of what that's like. So a little bit about me. I'm Chris's mom. Very proud to be his mom. I'm retired military. I've spent 26 years in the service, both as an Army enlisted and officer. I transitioned to the Navy, spent some time in the Navy, and then ended my time in service at the 26-year mark. Some people say, well, why didn't you just go for 30? And I said, you know what? At 26 years, I've pretty much seen enough of the world that I want to see. With that time, I had a great opportunity to engage with a lot of people at a lot of different levels, from trying to brief young privates coming in out of their small hometowns to 4-star generals trying to make a decision on what their next steps are going to be. And that's where I'm going to bring some of my experience from tonight. I am currently a Department of Defense employee with the civil government. I work down at MacDill Air Force Base, and we'll just kind of leave it at that. I don't have any really cool stories to tell that I can tell and not have to go out and call the Russian mob on you all, so we'll just leave it at that. My background. I have degrees in archaeology and anthropology. Archaeology was the thing I fell into and said, gosh, I want to make a living at that. When I discovered it wasn't Indiana Jones style, I said, I guess I better look for another career opportunity. I have a master's in international security and peace and conflict resolution. And I also have a degree in journalism and media law. You might be asking, well, what does all that have to do with any one career? Not a thing. But I have learned that with every piece of education you gain, you take that on board and you apply it to your current life skills. And so all of those things that I've been educated somewhat on, I've been able to turn into where I am today, and I'm pretty happy with where I am today. By day, as I mentioned, I'm a DoD civilian, but my true passion is, besides chocolate, photography. I am super fascinated by light and how light reflects off of everything, and I am definitely a cloud watcher. I particularly like to film clouds when I'm flying from place to place. Or if I'm just walking along the street, I will pause and be that one person looking up and making everybody look up just because I see a cloud that I think is cool. So that kind of gives you some insights into my eclectic world. And then lastly, I am the proud mom of 2 awesome young men, Chris, as you know, and then Jared, who is new to the area, just out of the Army himself, and looking forward to getting more involved with the Guild. Oh, and before we dive in, please, if you have questions about anything, ask them right up front, and we'll tackle them as we go. I don't want to wait for an intermission or towards the end of the brief because we might lose some of those good questions and training opportunities. So please throw your questions in the chat. Chris will shout them out to me, and we'll get you the answer. So we are going to dive right into pitching. I am not going to be teaching how to build PowerPoints. That's a whole nother session. I'm also not going to teach how to do full style briefings. That's also another deep dive that we would spend hours and hours and hours on. So really I'm going to touch on 3 main styles of pitching. The pitch. What is the pitch? The pitch is a very detailed discussion or a very short discussion on a product, service, or idea that you're trying to sell somebody on. Now that person can be your immediate supervisor, could be you looking for a raise, it could be working with the C-suite. You need an extra $10,000 for your budget because you have this new software you need to get. It could be for new client development. You want to beef up your client stock. So you're going to try and go out and have a cold call, cold meeting. How are you going to have that engagement? You may only have 30 seconds to get somebody on board with your idea. So we'll talk about the 3 main pitch programs. We have the formal pitch, the informal pitch, which I call the pitch up, and then the elevator speech. But in all 3 of those, we have key elements. And the most important element of any pitch, it doesn't matter which style you go with, is knowing your audience. You need to know who your audience is, first off, what their experience is with the idea or product or service that you're going to present. Are they the decision maker? Or are they maybe a mid-level manager who still has to get permission to go to the next step? I'm not saying it's wrong to pitch to them. You got to get your foot in the door. But knowing your audience is absolutely critical. If you provide too much detail to a CISO who already knows what they need to know about cybersecurity, then you're wasting your time and their time. If you're pitching to a marketing executive who may not know anything about your level of knowledge of cybersecurity, and you're just glossing over the wave tops, he may not understand why the issue is so important. So knowing your audience is absolutely critical. The other element of knowing your audience is, what do they need? Do your research. Look them up. Google them if it's a new client development. If it's another department, if it's someone in the C-suite. What is it that you think they need that they don't have so that you can target that? Because as we start looking at building our pitches, one of the things we need to do, and I'll talk about it at the bottom here, is solving their problem. So knowing your audience, primary number 1 element to pitching. The second most important thing is to know your stuff. Now, when I say know your stuff, we go to work every day, we sit down at our computers wherever we're at, we go and do what we do, and we know it by heart. We could do it with our eyes closed. We could do it without any prompting at all. But I'm here to tell you that the moment you step in front of somebody you don't know or a senior level executive, all of that brain knowledge just kind of goes down the drain. It's still there, but you're now stumbling over words such as the ums or the uhs, or you get ahead of yourself, or you speak too fast, or you forget an important part that you want to jump back to. So there comes a time where everyone's going to have to get in front of a senior leader, a person they don't know, or even just teammates, and give a spiel. And so knowing your own stuff, not just because you do it every day, but what does it sound like when you tell somebody? What does it look like when you present a briefing? How do you get past those trip-ups that make you less professional in someone else's eyes and therefore maybe not ready to be at the level you need to be at, or that the product or service or idea you're presenting maybe isn't that great? It's all about perspectives, it's all about professionalism, and it's all about getting that confidence in your audience. So practice, 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 and we'll talk about that when we actually build our elevator speech. And then, as I mentioned, know a solution. Identify the problem, but don't just admire it. That's one of the things that is common in my industry, that we like to admire the problem. Oh, this thing is bad, it's terrible. Let me show you all the stats I can about how bad the issue is. And then we sit back. We don't provide a solution. This is where the most important part of your pitch, your actual pitch, is going to come from. You highlight the problem. You say, this is a pandemic. This is the issue. It's hitting us teleworkers. It's hitting us corporate. It's hitting us financially. Here's the solution. Giving them that bottom line solution is what they're going to key in on. And that's where you're going to get your money speech in to get to yes. And then don't quit. A lot of folks will do the one-time cold call, the one-time email, the one-time, hey, I'm going to give you this pitch. And then if they don't hear anything back, they go, scratch them off, they don't like it. That is not the way to go. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the power of 8. But don't give up, never quit. If this is your passion and this is where you want to go, then you got to put all in. And that's at every time.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah.
Did you prefer the Army or the Navy more?
Oh no, okay. Army, Navy. Okay, so I preferred the Army as an enlisted person. When I transferred to the Navy and was already an officer, I saw the officer corps in the Navy to be much more proficient. Sorry, Army guys, that's just me, that's how I'm gonna call it.
That was from your other son, by the way. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Jared. So one thing I didn't mention up front, and I apologize, we had a little chat about it earlier, but we'll go back to the slide here in a moment. But if anybody can tell me, actually, can I do that right now, Chris? I'm in charge, right? I can just do what I want, right? That's the whole key thing about pitching. All right. Anybody that can, by the end of our session tonight, tell me who this fabulous, famous pitcher is. And I will tell you this was before 1945, and he played for the Boston Red Sox. I will give you a free photo shoot. Choice of your location. Location of your choice. There we go.
So like if John Cochise got it right, then you would give him a free boudoir shoot if he wanted to do that?
If he wanted to go boudoir and, lingerie style swimsuits, you bet. I may have to wear goggles, but, we'll go that route.
All right.
All right. So we're going to start off with the two longer pitches, because I want to give you an idea of what goes into those from a long presentation perspective. Again, we're not going to build a PowerPoint. I'm not going to take you through all that stuff. But I want you to know what goes into the longer presentation for a pitch, so that you get an idea of what you have to shrink down when you get to that elevator speech. So the formal presentation pitch is the best for new client business, for the big C-suite executives, or say if you're working with a bank or financial or even angel investors. They want to know the whole story. Now, this is still only going to be about a 10 to 20 minute presentation. So don't do death by PowerPoint and try to put everything in Word format on a slide. They still have a short amount of time to give, and you just need to hit the salient points. But in a formal presentation, there's a lot of things that go into this. Again, you want to list the problem. What's the issue? Running out of hotel space. So how can we do cheap rooms for people who just want to be in one place at one time, or they don't really like the hotel environment and they just want to be part of the neighborhood or the location that they're at? In this example, Airbnb came up with a great idea. Is the problem specific to just the client, or is it systemic across the region, the nation, the globe? How big is this problem? Because that's going to determine market share. That's going to determine how much your client might sit back and go, wow, I could build a niche that no one else has. I can start locally and expand regionally and go national and then maybe take it across the ocean. So these are things you want to think about when you're looking at the problem. Don't just think about it from I need more money so that I can buy more paper clips. I need more money because the supplies that we have are insufficient for us to meet our clients' needs. If we're not meeting our clients' needs because we don't have the supplies, then our clients are not going to be happy and they're going to leave. So that's how you can take a small issue and bring it to the leader so that the leader can see that impact.
So, hey, for the baseball player, do you want to do that at the end, or do you want me to ask?
We'll do it at the end.
Okay.
We'll do it at the end.
I'm not
Just
sure how to keep track of who got it first.
Oh, I don't know how the timelines work on the,
All right,
screen,
go
so I'll
for it.
let you mess
Yeah,
with
okay.
that. You may have to do a coin toss.
Gotcha.
So as I mentioned before, so if you're going to present a problem, you need to have a solution. Just don't throw the problem out there and expect the leader to give you the solution that you're going to now run away with and build and make this great. Same with your clients. If you're going to come to a new client or even an existing client and say, hey, you got this problem, you need to have that solution ready. And in my experience, I've always presented 3 options. I've always presented the best course of action. I've presented a moderate course of action that would be okay if we did it. And then I present one that's like, you know, if you want to do that, okay, great, but these are the fallout if you're going to go with that lesser option. That shows that you've done some homework, and it gives the leader an opportunity to choose. Because we also don't know what's going on in that level or with your client, who may not be able to hit the number 1 option. They may only be able to do the medium option. So again, just consider that going forward. This is where you're also going to describe your product and service. Now for the Airbnb model, they built this great PowerPoint slide, and you can go and view this deck, Google it, and you can pull it down and see the links that they went to. You'll notice they did a really good job. They don't just have a bunch of words, they used visuals. And this is a great way to go when you're doing a PowerPoint. Again, you don't want to have tons of words on a slide, and you don't want to be doing 60 slides in 30 minutes, because then you're going to lose your audience. But you want to describe your product and your service. And that's going to be key when we get to that elevator speech. And then get into some of the market things. Things like, what's the market size for the service or product you're working on? Is it a very small niche market, which is okay, because the client, the customer, the leaders may want to branch out into something small? Or is it significant and large, regional, national, international? I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just wanted you to see some of the items that you really need to focus on for that 10 to 20 slide pitch. My experience has been to stay to 10. Try not to go over 10. The more slides you have, the more opportunity you have for the leader to say, you know what, I got to cut this short, and I've got this other meeting. Or your client gets that call that says they got to go, and you haven't even gotten to the important stuff yet. So keep it short. One experience I had back in the day, I was called to Capitol Hill to give a brief. And I was supposed to give this brief on this really important issue. And I built this great, nice 20-deck slide. I had that thing down. I practiced. I could do it with my eyes closed. I show up. The assistant goes, you've got 5 minutes, and you need to cut your brief down to 3 slides. So in the 15 minutes that I had before I briefed, I had to do quick shuffle, and I ended up with an intro slide, 1 slide of data, and a question slide. And that was my brief. So shorter, the better. Other things to cover down on: identify your competition. Really important. If you call out your competition, you're at least showing that there is competition out there. But you're not afraid of that. You're not afraid of that because you've got the service, the product, you've got the experience, the ideas, and you've got the wasta to pull this off, not the competition. So don't be afraid to highlight your competition. Or the absence of competition is also a good thing. Highlight what's better, different from your competition. Present your marketing plan if you have one. Introduce team members. How many people are going to be working on this? If it's just you, that's still fine. You don't need to be worried about, I don't have a team of 20 people or I have a team of 30. You highlight who you have, and if you have 5 people, hey, I only need 5 people to do the work. Or it's just me, and I'm going to do all of this for you. So really play to your strengths. And then set your milestones. Always good to have timelines and goals when you're doing a longer presentation. They like to see where you're going to hit those markers, especially if we're talking financial considerations or if we're talking product rollout. So good thing to backcast, what we call in the briefing world. If you have a milestone that's 1 January, what do you need to hit in December to get you to 1 January? Then what do you need to hit in November to get you to that December mark? And what do you have to hit in October to get you to November? That sets the stage for how you're going to get your product, service, or idea through the pipeline and out to the community. All right, so now we're going to step it down a notch. The pitch up, the informal. This is the one that I would say is probably the least used, but probably the most effective. Because unless you are one step below the corporate executive of your company, or you're sitting at the Wolf of Wall Street level and you can talk to a client and say hi and they're going to come on board with you, we all have intermediaries that we have to work with. So, and this could be your first level supervisor. This could be a next up supervisor. It could be another department. It could be, again, a new client, but at a level that you wouldn't say get in a Italian suit, take them out to dinner in a Rolls Royce kind of level. So this is kind of what I call also the coffee shop level. This is where you sit down and you're just going to have a chat and you're just going to go over things. It's very brief, again, 10 to 20 minutes. This is typically no slides. You may want to have a chart or a stat or even a brochure of your service or your product. Pen and paper just to draw out the idea. Very informal, but the elements remain the same. State the problem. Who's impacted the problem? Why is this problem even important? In the military, we have the 3 key elements: the what, the so what, and what am I going to do about it? That's what they need to know because they're looking at dropping steel on target, or they're refunding to get that great new plane that they want. So 3 top things: the what, the so what, and what am I going to do about it? Solutions. So you again state the problem. What's the solution? What are my options? Tell them your options. New client. You're struggling with your marketing industry. How can I help you with that? Well, let me tell you what I've done with other clients. This is how I've done X. This is how I've done Y. And this is what happened. They all got more business on their end, and they were able to expand. So pulling in those little vignettes, talking about the solution, not just admiring the problem. Establishing the trust and confidence. So this is where entrepreneurs and folks just starting out kind of get a little nervous. They say, well, I don't have any experience. That's why I'm coming to you to teach me how to pitch so I can get a client, so I can get experience. That's okay. What you don't want to do is exude a lack of confidence. So practicing in front of the mirror, practicing with family, sitting down with your dog. Chica the pug had to listen to me go over my speech several times, and she even left, which is unusual for her because she usually stays with me because I always have food. But I digress. Don't look at an opportunity as being your first. For me as a photographer, I didn't start off with clients. I started off with a camera. So how did I land my first magazine gig? They said, wow, who have you shot for? Well, I haven't shot for anybody. But here, let me show you my portfolio. And these are the things I've done. And they looked and said, wow, you know, I really like that picture. You know, can we use that? We want to do a story. And that one event landed me with a magazine in England on tea rooms. I had this fabulous opportunity of driving all over England, eating all kinds of fattening cakes and scones and drinking fabulous tea so that I could do reviews. The best part about that, though, was I got to photograph. So one little event, I was upfront and honest. I hadn't said that I worked for any particular company or had presented myself as something I wasn't, but I still was able to get in the door because I said, I don't have a client base yet, but here, let me show you what I've done. So again, in an informal way, you can still land those first-time clients. If you do have some experience, hit on that. What's the success? Just landed Nike. Great. Yep, doing a shoe shoot for them next week. Just landed a new client who has a cybersecurity need, and they got hacked last year, and we're fixing that patch. You don't have to get into specifics because we all have clientele that we need to keep NDAs with, but highlight those successes that you've had. Bring that confidence in. And then, how does this going to work? Give them a little bit of a timeline. So this is what I'm going to do. We're going to have this. We're going to get together. We're going to build out a plan. I'm going to set up and have this person do this person do that. And then we'll get back together in a month and we'll show you where we're at. Have that plan. Again, it gets to those milestones and goals. So hopefully you're seeing a little bit of a theme here where what was in the bigger presentation, we've necked it down to be a shorter one. And then last, that call to action. What are they going to do? For you, as the pitch person, what you want to do from a call to action perspective is that next step. You want to get on the calendar for that larger formal presentation that you can get in front of decision makers, or you want to get that larger presentation out so you can get them to sign on that dotted line and become your client. So that call to action. Hey, how about I swing by next Tuesday at 9 and I will bring the team in and we will do this in a formal presentation. And that works with new clients, that works with leadership, that works with existing clients. Okay, now we're getting to the fun stuff, the elevator pitch. Why is it called an elevator pitch? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? It's designed to only take 30 seconds. The amount of time that you go from floor A to floor B is what you have to sell your idea, your product, or your service. So this is where knowing your stuff comes in handy. This is where knowing your audience comes in handy. And this is where practice and practice and practice comes in handy. I'll also say one thing I didn't mention, but we'll do in our practical, is writing it down. You know, that old school thing about actually writing down what you're going to say and then reading it a couple of times and hearing what you think you were going to say actually come out the way you wrote it. You start to learn a couple of things. But again, it's the same thing. You're going to state a problem, who's impacted, why it's important. You're going to present solutions. You're going to establish that trust and confidence. You're going to explain how it works, and you're going to issue a call to action. So I'm going to show you what that looks like from an example perspective.
Hi guys, sorry I'm late. But guess what? I'm not sorry. And I am not late. When I think about your new accounting software, I don't want to think about the office and going to work. I want to think about having fun, okay? The messaging here, it's got to be light and loose and funny. But it's also got to be serious. Like deathly serious. It's got to be relatable, safe, familiar, old school, new school, scary, unsafe. It's got to punch you in the face and then make you breathe. I gotta go, but it was great to meet you guys. I'm Donna.
We don't make accounting software. Maybe we should.
So I wanted to show that for a couple things. It was slightly more than, her spiel was slightly more than 30 seconds. It was like 47 seconds. But a couple of things. Yes, that was tongue-in-cheek, but she was very animated. She walked in, she threw her spiel out there, she, oh, sorry. We have stuff that's happening over the audio. That's another great pitch too, but we won't go into that one. But she dove right in with her pitch about how it was going to be great and it was going to be exciting and the way that they were going to get it out there. A couple problems. She didn't know her audience because they obviously didn't make accounting software. But it was really cool at the end because the guy said, wow, maybe we should. And that's the kind of hook you want. You want to be able to get the company, the client, the new client, the existing clients to say, wow, I didn't realize I needed that service until you told me I needed that service. But again, very practiced. She went and hit it, and away she went. So all those same things that we talked about before, you just get to do it in a much shorter environment. All right, so how do we build an elevator pitch? Think of the elevator pitch as the Twitter version of your business plan. So you'll have more than 140 characters. I think Twitter actually expanded that now. But you have a short amount of time and space to give your entire idea and hit all those key elements that we've talked about. So 30 seconds is our goal when we get to our practical. And you folks out there in streaming land, I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I want you to follow along. And I'm going to know who does and who doesn't. So we're going to try and aim to keep our elevator pitch at between 65 and 80 words, roughly 5 to 6 sentences. So something that you can put on a 3x5 card is where you want to go. And the things that we're going to build with. We're going to start with the stating the problem. We're going to present a solution. We're going to explain why people should trust you. And we're going to describe the value of our proposition and then put that call to action in. So just to again show you what a good one and a bad one looks like, I'm not going to read this to you. Well, no, I'm not going to read it. This is actually a 1.5-minute long reading at normal speed. And it goes into a lot of detail that isn't really useful to the person. By the time I get down there and say my brand is called Earthlife Studios, I've already lost them. They're getting off the elevator. Or they're thinking about something else. They saw chocolate and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go get some dessert, so you keep talking and I'll be right back. So when we're talking about building our scenario, what it is we're going to say about our service, our product, or our idea, we need to be short, sweet, pithy. In my environment, it's called being clear and concise. You want to be clear and concise. You want to get rid of the fluffy words. You don't need to be ambiguous, but you don't need to spell out everything. You're just trying to get in the door with your elevator speech. You want to do that call to action so that you can say, how about I swing by Tuesday at 9? Or how about we go to your office right now and I'll give you the longer version. So you want to get that call to action. You don't want to bore them to tears, make them hungry, or make them want to get off at a floor that's not their floor. So here's a shorter version. And you're thinking, well, it's great to have this all written down, but I'm not going to have a card with me to say all of this. So why should I worry about whether I've got 65 words versus 70 words, or if there's 4 sentences versus 5 sentences? Well, that's very important when we actually get to the pitch of what we're going to say. I was chatting with Adam earlier, and one of the things that he says is he knows what he wants to say, he knows how he wants to say it, but he gets tripped up with the ums and the ahs and the oh yeah. So we all do. And that's why I've had on that first slide, we need to practice, practice, practice. And that's why we're going to go into this next exercise where I want you to take 3 to 5 minutes on your 3x5 card or your piece of paper and just write about yourself, your business, your service, how it's going to benefit your company or a new client, and talk about all those things that I mentioned. You've got a problem. You need to have a solution. You need to highlight why they need to be concerned with the problem or your solution, and how you're going to get there to get them out of that problem or provide them that solution, and what you're going to do to get them out of their predicament. And then you can throw in things like your team, how it's going to come out. But again, you want to keep it to between 65 and 80 words. Don't have to worry about counting your words for now. It's all right. But try not to go over 5 or 6 sentences. And watch out for jargon. In our different industries, we like to throw out acronyms and buzzwords and this and that. And we know exactly what we're talking about. And the guy sitting next to us knows, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. But the new client or the senior leader that we're engaging may not have that level of understanding. So stay out of the jargon, stay out of the euphemisms, stick with good, clear words. So ready, set, go.
Actually, I have 2 questions
Okay,
while
while we're doing that?
Yeah, while they're doing that.
Sure.
So let's see. So for one, Tai Moto said Cy Young.
Well, I can't say if that's right or wrong.
I think the consensus is that that's correct.
Oh boy, I'm gonna owe a lot of headshots.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a question from Keen Blaine. As a technological anthropologist, how do we build an open culture of secure by design platforms that we can successfully pitch to both customers and investors as being worth the expense or trouble of doing so? Thoughts of homomorphic encryption from last week.
So I'm not going to go into the how do we build that, but what I'll tell you is how do you get that across to a leader? You got to hit that problem. You got to be able to say, okay, because of what's going on in our environment, these are all the things that are happening. If you continue on the current path, what's going to happen to your business or your company? And then you outline what you've seen in other companies. I'm just going to go with a hacking environment just because it's kind of the easiest one to grab right now. So Department of Defense, federal government, every element of the federal government's been hit probably by at least once, and anybody who's been employed by the federal government has all their data everywhere. So how do we stop that? Well, someone needed to go to the federal government and say, hey, look, your stuff isn't going to cut it. It's not going to take a mastermind to come in and get your data. And this is what's going to happen unless you fix it. And then you say, well, do you remember 2005 when this happened? You remember 2011 when this happened? You remember 2014 when this happened? You have to throw out those examples of why they can't continue the way they are. You need to hit that. If you continue the way that you're going, you're going to lose money, you're going to lose clients, you're going to lose your company. Here's how we can fix it so none of those bad things happen. We have this product, this platform, that is going to help integrate and ensure that people from all walks can have access to the same level of data, information, or sourcing, whatever the platform is going to be, so that everyone has that sense of equality. You're going to do that behind a firewall. You're going to have these security procedures and protocols. And we're going to ensure that any third-party products, softwares, or services that are used meet your standards so that you have the control. So you put it back in their court in the sense of you have a problem. If you don't fix the problem, things are going to get worse, and you're going to struggle while your competition, arises above. Let us help you get that solution so that you can stay ahead of the game and beat out your competition. Hopefully that answered the question.
And then we got one more. So this one's from Tremere. What presentation tips do you use to come off more as an authority during your presentations?
That's a great question. And my experiences working with the government leaders, this is absolutely crucial. The way that you come off as being confident and you get that trust, as I mentioned, was to know your information. The flip side to that, as I mentioned, is practice. I've been briefing for over 30 years, various levels. I've been doing public speaking at different levels. Not once have I got in front of the mic or a leader or a new client without having practiced my eyeballs out with what I'm going to say? That is absolutely critical. When you practice each element of your presentation, your your pitch, you learn, you hear yourself, and you learn where your trip-ups are. It's again why we're doing this exercise. You learn which words you have a difficult time saying, and you go, you know what? I'm not going to say that 4-syllable word. I'm going to find another word that's 2 syllables that I can say without saying something I don't want to say. So it really is about the delivery and about the insight and knowledge. Now, the other thing I'll say, just some kind of technical tips. Speak slowly. Every time we get in front of somebody, it doesn't matter if you're polished or if you're a first-timer, the natural inclination is to speak fast, to rattle it off. You're not even going to breathe. Yeah. You're just going to go. And you're going to say 20 minutes in 5 minutes, and then you're all going to sit there for 15 minutes with nothing to say. Speak slowly. Enunciate. Already know, again from practice, already know those points that you want to sit on and have that dramatic pause. If we continue down this path, we will fail in our mission. Dramatic pause.
Yeah, that was
very
dramatic.
And then you go into your next point. That's where you're going to start getting that leadership engagement that, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. I'm actually going to pay attention a little bit more. Having stats and pretty pictures is great, but they're going to be looking at you. So speaking and talking to your data is great. Highlight a stat here and there, but don't make it all about the numbers. Don't make it all about this cool widget that does X, Y, and Z and then can polish your car. What you want to do, speak slowly, make great eye contact. You can move about the room, but don't move too much. It's best to stay kind of in one area so that they're not playing ping pong with the head. All of those little things are going to get them to trust you more and be more interested in what you have to say. And then lastly, I would say, this is just me, I'm old school. I never go to a presentation or a briefing in t-shirts and jeans. If the client's there in t-shirts and jeans, and I know the client, because I've done my research, is going to be there in t-shirt jeans, I may dress it down a little bit, but I am not going to show up in t-shirts and jeans because I'm a professional and I want them to think of me in that light. I don't want them to think of me as an employee, or I don't want my supervisor to think of me as just an employee. I want them to think of me as a professional who has something professional to say. Hope that helped.
Yeah, that was good. I like the dramatic pause.
Yes, dramatic pause.
What's going to happen?
I'm good at that. Okay, so we've had a couple minutes to go over our spiel. Chris, our fabulous host tonight, is going to be our guinea pig. So, Chris.
Yes.
I want you to, without thinking about it, just read what's on your card.
Hey, my name's Chris. How's it going?
That's it?
No, how's it going?
Oh, yes. How's it going? It's going well.
Yeah,
Thank
good.
you.
Yeah, I saw your marketing video, the one you guys put out last week. Yeah, it sucked. It really was horrible.
Oh, really?
Here's my card. This is my floor. I gotta go.
Wow. Okay. That was great.
Yeah.
That was really good. I'm going to tell you a couple of those really key points that Chris hit. I wasn't sure we were doing role play, but that's okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
So first, in the role play, he identified who he was congenial, and said, "Hey, how you doing?" Kind of breaking the ice because you're in an elevator, right? By the way, most pitches don't happen in an elevator. That's just an analogy. But he then said, "Hey, I saw your marketing video." And right then and there, the person is going to perk up because it's like, someone saw my product, someone saw my service. This is great. I wonder what they're going to say about it. Yeah, it sucked. Oh, dang. That's kind of the drop that I wasn't expecting.
I would never say that.
I'm sure Chris wouldn't say it in that way. But there's a way that you can highlight that. You can say, well, you know, it was okay, it was good, but it could have been a lot better. And the getaway and the call to action was good, but what I probably would have done was, rather than here's my card, I'll see you later, call me, spend that extra 10 seconds and say, I actually do marketing videos for multiple clients, and I use not just high technology, but I use elements that hit today's environment. People want to see my stuff. I have XYZ views on YouTube. I've got so many 10 million followers on Instagram and Twitter. They are clamoring for my videos, and I can do for you what I've done for these other clients of mine. So I would love to come by and show you some examples. How about Tuesday at 9? Great. Hey, this is my floor. I got to go. Here's my card. I will call your secretary because I know that you work in this business office, so I'll give you a ring.
So, yeah, Dr. Goon, and I can't do it in his accent. So this is what he wrote down. He said, it's challenging to connect defensive solutions to meet the changing landscape of active threats. At Made Up Name Inc., we have developed a strategic model that adapts to an organization's unique and changing needs. We have proven success at building an effective defensive security program in Fortune 500 companies by marrying offensive techniques to your business risks. Here's my card.
That's awesome. Had all those elements in it. Started off with the problem, why it's important, why the client needs to be listening to what he's saying, highlighted the solution, and highlighted that his company is actually one that does that solution. Highlighted successes that they've had, other clientele business, and then provided that business card. Again, I would just throw in there, what you don't want to do is throw the ball completely in their court and walk away. You want to kind of hook them. Think of it as less about baseball now, but more about fishing. So you've been out fishing, you've thrown that hook, you've baited them, you're kind of slowly reeling them in. You've hit the good high points, and now you're feeling a little bit of resistance. So you give them that card and say, here's my card. How about I come by Tuesday at 9, I don't know why Tuesday at 9 is so cool, but Tuesday at 9 or tomorrow at 3, and I will show you a way forward for your company. What you want to do is get them to commit. And because the elevator speech is your first step into the door, you don't want to sit back and wait and go, okay, I've done my thing, I'm going to wait for them. No, you want to try and get them to commit right then. Now, they may say, well, I don't have my calendar with me, I don't have my schedule, I'd have to find out. Say, hey, that's great. What's your secretary's name? I can give her a call and I'll work with her. So try to leave with another contact name, another contact phone number, or a no kidding time on the calendar. You don't want to let them get away. The moment they walk out that elevator or away from the coffee shop or wherever you're at, they're on to their next item of business. They've got some other meeting, they've got the kids, they've got to go to soccer practice, they've got to go grocery shopping, they've got to walk their pug. Whatever the deal is, their mind is now going to be full with something else. And they may stick your business card in a jacket and it ends up in the dry cleaner. So again, always try to think of that close, where you want to get them to do that call to action. Here's my business card. Always great to have a business card. How about I swing by Tuesday at 9 and we'll discuss it further. That was great. Thank you for those examples.
Well, my mic was muted when I read his thing, so nobody heard it.
Oh, nobody heard it. Oh,
no, but
okay,
it was
that's
great.
Okay.
Yeah, it was great.
It was great, but you know what? I want to time it because I didn't have my timer on. So Chris, why don't you read it one more time so they can all hear the greatness?
Okay. Again, imagine this is in Dr. Goon's, the way he's talked. So, it's challenging to connect defensive solutions to meet the changing landscape of active threats. At Made Up Name Inc., we have developed a strategic model that adapts to an organization's unique and changing needs. We have proven success at building an effective defensive security program in Fortune 500 companies by marrying offensive techniques to your business risks. Here's my card.
That was great. That was 25 seconds and 25.2 seconds.
And I fumbled.
And Chris fumbled a little. Yeah. So that was great. That is perfect. And that was actually the speed at which Chris spoke that was a good speed. It wasn't too fast. It wasn't too slow. We weren't falling asleep. It was perfect. So that was very good. That was a great option. Any other takers want to throw theirs up there? Or are we moving on? All right.
Nope, I think
All right.
that's it for now.
All right, so what I want to talk about next is the power of 8. Now, I put this at the bottom of the slide. I probably should have put it at the top. The Power of 8 is a book, actually, that was written by Lynn McTaggart. Now, the Power of 8 that she's following is looking at intentions and the power of our intentions and a collective to get things done. In her focus, she's looking at it more from the spiritual realm, the power of collective prayer, and the 8 steps to involve that to bring about miraculous events. I have not read her book fully, but it looks like it's a good book, and I highlight any book that can help us achieve a higher understanding of the world around us. So that's what the Power of 8, when you Google it, that's what you're going to find. So what is so significant about the number 8? So I threw up some items here, a couple things I did not know, some things I did know. Because of photography, the infinity symbol is actually an 8 that's sideways, which is what 8 stands for. It's infinity out of the cosmos, at least in that one example. What I thought was interesting, and again, I didn't know this, the Beijing Olympics began on August 8th, 2008 at 8 minutes and 8 seconds past 8 p.m. So why is that? What's up with that? Was that by accident? No, that was not by accident. China and in other Asian countries, 8 has a significant number. It's a lucky number. For China, it's the totality of the universe. Again, the infinity. Represents the Earth, not the surface, but its volume, because it's the first cubic number. And all that math on the side has nothing to do with the Power 8. I just thought it looked cool. So that's my eye candy for the brief. So why is it called the Power of 8? Because in most cultures, 8 has a significant representation. So what do I mean when I'm talking about the Power of 8? So when I'm talking about the Power of 8 to get to yes, and this is not my idea, I did not come up with it. I certainly didn't develop it. The credit that I learned it from goes to an awesome photographer by the name of Joel Grimes. If any of you have ever seen his work, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen his work, Google Joel Grimes. He does amazing photographs with grunge, and they're just spectacular. I just really enjoy it. But he teaches the Power of 8 from a marketing perspective. And it's about getting your audience, getting your clients to yes. It's not about just, hey, you got a problem, I got a solution, give me a call next week. It's getting them to yes right there. Sometimes we can't do that. Sometimes we can't get them on the phone. Sometimes they're not responding to the email. So what do I mean? Beginning of the brief, one of the important things I said about pitching is not quitting. Don't give up. If you really want it, you're going to keep going after it. So the Power of 8 that I was taught has to do with going that extra mile and being above your competition. So what does that mean? So here's what I did. I made a list of potential clients, and at the time that I employed this, I was looking to get into real estate photography, go in and take pictures of cool houses and unique structures, because I do like architecture. But COVID hit. So how do I go into people's workplaces and corporations and take pictures when everybody's shut down and not wanting to get in contact with you? So what I did was I developed a list. And you can go out and find lists online. I've got my blah blah book, and it really does say blah 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 on it. And all it is lined, and all it has are client lists, who I want to call, their phone number, where they're at. But what I also do is I have 8 lines for each. Why 8? Well, it's called the Power of 8 for a reason. I'm going to do 8 mailings for each client. I'm going to mail one of my lookbooks out to advertisers, marketing agencies, one a week for 8 weeks. Now you're thinking, Cindy, that's a lot of money to throw down the tube. Or why are you doing that? Why don't you just walk up with a thumb drive and say, here's my digital portfolio? A mailing comes into an office, goes to an executive assistant who sees it. They're going to open the mail for the seniors because that's what they do. And they're going to see this book. And they're going to see, oh, Earth Life Studios lookbook. Cool. And then it's going to go in a file and it's not going to go anywhere because they're going to forget to give it to their leader. So I send out another one the second week. And the exec gets it. She looks at it. Oh, yeah, I remember this now. Dang, what did I do with that other one? Oh, I don't remember. Well, I better put this one on the director of photography's desk because he's going to want to see it. And, of course, I still don't have a call back. The third week, I will send another one. And she's going to get it and go, oh, I better go talk to so-and-so because we've got this lookbook now and we need to get on this because she's seen it now 3 times. So obviously it's important. So then she'll go in and talk with the director of photography and he's like, oh yeah, I saw something like that last week. Okay, well put it here and I'll take a look at it. Still no callback. So here comes the 4th one and the 5th one or the 6th one. And eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to become a household name for that company. It's like, oh, Cindy sent us a new lookbook. Maybe the same lookbook, but hey, Cindy sent us a new lookbook. Oh, great, that's great. Let's see, let's flip through it. Oh, hey, she does shoes and makeup and jewelry photography. Our current photographer is out sick for the entire month. I need this product shot. Let's give her a call. So by constantly getting my name out in front of them in that book, and this is just one method, I've now become either an annoyance, and they want to call me and say, hey, why are you sending stuff? We got a photographer, to which I say, hey, that's great. You know, keep my name handy in case you need me to go somewhere. I do a lot of traveling. I'm going to be in Budapest next week, and I can grab this shot or that shot. Or if your photographer's sick, hey, just let me know, and I'll pop down. So that's why I will put that effort forward, because I know that by the time I get to that 8th mailing, that either they're going to call me and say, come down here so we can have you stop filling up our files, or they're going to call me and say, hey, can you come down to the shoot? Our guy is sick and we got to get this project done. So that's how that works. What I do with that too, though, is also emails. So coming back to the real estate business, I made my list of real estate companies that I wanted to work with in the local Wesley Chapel area. I wanted to go to Estancia. I wanted to go to Meadow Park. I wanted to go over to Church Walk. I wanted to go to a whole bunch of different companies. So I wrote them down and I started picking up the phone, making phone calls, cold call phone calls, which is, again, another reason to have that little 30-second elevator speech written out. I had mine right in front of me so I didn't have to do the ums and the ahs and, ooh, now what do I say? Had it right there, read it right from the script. And it was perfect. I hit a lot of voicemails. I hit a lot of receptionists. I hit a lot of everybody's out because of COVID. It's like, okay, great. Here's my name, here's my number. If you could just pass this on to the sales director, I would appreciate it. You bet, click. My job's not done, because either she's going to forget or she's going to do that and they're going to forget. So I never leave it at the first call. If I haven't heard back, I'm going to call again. I'm going to maybe intersperse that with an email if I have one. Because by the 3rd or 4th call, the receptionist will have the email or another number handy for me because she's tired of me calling her and bugging her while she's sitting at work. So then I get the sales director's number. You need to talk to sales, or you need to talk to marketing and they're in California. Here's their number. Excellent. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Then I start off from the beginning, first call to California. And I engage with them over and over and over until it's like, hey, Cindy's on the phone again. She wants to know if she can go shoot that new house down off of the channel. Yep, she can go in Saturday from 4 to 5. Tell her we want shots of the kitchen. And boom. And that's because I've been persistent. Now, I wasn't 100% successful. I didn't get everybody that I called, and I'm still calling those. So what happens when I get to the number 8 level and I haven't got a call back, or I haven't been able to get to the client to yes? I mark a note down on my handy list that's in my handy book, and I say, hold, reevaluate in 3 weeks. Because maybe that company's going out of business. Maybe they don't have any models for me to shoot. I ran into that with one of the clients up north. He said, you know what? I just sold my last home. It's the model home. But we got 3 more being built. They'll be ready in July. Call me back. So you know what I did? The last week in June, I started calling. Hey, it's Cindy. Remember we engaged and had this conversation, and you said you're going to have a couple homes built. Just wanted to check in, see where you're at. I would love to get those shots so that you can get your new brochure out and your new pictures up on the website. Oh, well, with the COVID thing, we haven't been able to get our construction guys out. We're starting to now, and so it's going to take another couple of months. Okay, great. How about I check back with you in 2 weeks, and we'll just see where we are so that I can make sure I can fit you into my very busy schedule. That's always a good one to throw in.
That's awesome.
and it does work. You're making relationships, you're building networks, and you're getting your name into their Rolodex. As a matter of fact, I did call him back on Monday, and they are almost finished with one of the model homes, and I am cleared to go in at the end of July when I get back from another project. So consistency, repetitiveness, and just doing it. Now, a couple things I've had when I've given this cold calling talk. People have said, well, what's the best day of the week to do that? There is no best day. No one wants to be called on a Monday, and no one wants to be called on a Friday. So you're thinking, well, I'll call Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Well, so is everybody else. The best day to give that cold call is the moment you put their name down on a piece of paper and have that phone number. Don't wait for it to stop raining, because if it's raining, then they're probably going to have lunch indoors and you don't want to disturb them during lunch. Don't make excuses for them. That's you making excuses for yourself. If you've written down your elevator speech, which we practiced, if you've practiced that thing in a mirror or with friends or family, then all you got to do is make that call. And the moment they say hello, it's, hi, my name is Chris. I'm blah, 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 blah.
Your
I'd like
shit
to do
sucks.
This for you. So again, consistency and repetitiveness. By the time you get to the callbacks, your client or your senior, and this works internal for seniors as well. I don't know how many of you have been trying to get on the calendar with your boss to have that conversation, and it's like, oh yeah, that meeting came up, I'm not going to be able to do it. This works with them as well.
This works for maybe budgeting reasons, like if I know that I've heard that from a lot of guild members too. Like, they have solutions, they know what they want to do with their team, but getting the budget, getting that small percentage of the overall IT budget for cyber is more difficult than you would think it would be. Yeah.
I can't imagine, because next to the marketing budget being the first thing that's slashed whenever there's an economic downturn, it's IT. So how do you do that? Well, you got to be on that phone every morning. Hey, this is Joe. Remember we talked yesterday? We've got to look at that IT issue, because if we don't get on it, we are going to be unprotected, and we are putting not only our company at risk, but our clients. So I'm free for the next 30 minutes. How about I come over? Well, I got a meeting until 10. Great, I'll be there at 10. And then you just stay on that. Once you get that meeting, that's where you need to be ready with your pitch, whether it's the informal pitch, the formal pitch, or the 30-second elevator speech. You need to make sure you're prepared, because if you go through all that work and you get in front of the budget minders and the accountants and the seniors who are going to say yay or nay, and then you're like, yeah, we got a problem, and I think we can fix it, but I need $10 million, and so it's going to require all this new networking stuff. So if you come off as not ready, then you're shut down, and let me tell you, that will stay with you for quite some time.
Yeah,
so,
it's funny because, we just had a comment, and she was saying that sometimes as a decision maker, I can tell you it becomes very clear very quickly who has done their homework and sent out relevant, well-qualified information, and who is just spewing crap everywhere. Spewing crap everywhere so they can see what sticks. The latter may seem harmless, but definitely affects reputation, like you said. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because credibility is everything in any business. The moment you lose credibility, whether it's with your leader, your supervisor, your corporate executives that you're trying to support, or your clients, you've got a long road to hoe to come back. You can come back from it. I've stepped in it many times with 3 and 4 stars that I could have easily have destroyed my career, but you stick with it. You recognize where your faults were, and you brush up, and then the next time you get in front of someone, you hit it out of the park. The more times you start to hit it out of the park, the more times they're going to remember that, and not the, oh, you stepped in it. All right, so that's basically the power of 8. Super simple. There's nothing magical about it. There's no, super diet you have to go on. It is all about persistence and the number 8. The number 8's ingrained in us as human beings for some reason. And by the time you get to that 8, you're either going to get that call back because they want to get you off their back, or that they're going to think that, hey, yeah, that's right, this person's coming in. How come we're not prepared for them? Because they've seen your name so many times, they know you by name. They know you by heart. Or your leader in your company is going to say, oh yeah, Joe wants me to have this meeting because it's important for our clients, so we got to make sure we block off 15 minutes for him to come brief me. So don't give up, and the power of 8 will be your friend. All right, story of 8, power of 8 story time. I kind of already did the story time.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a comment by Glenn. And you're saying usually it's not someone with credibility making the cold calls, it's someone asking to set up a meeting for someone else that has sales engineer level familiarity, when ideally we want the CTO/VP of engineering on the cold call. So can you speak maybe a little bit about if you have a team that is then going out and making cold calls, how do you better prepare them to set up that call that you actually want to get?
Absolutely, and that's great, and I appreciate that question, because as a team lead and a division chief, I do have teams that I have to work with, and when I put this together, I actually put it together from the standpoint of me in my own private business with my photography studio. So I appreciate that call to look at the bigger picture from the team perspective. So as the leader of your team, a lot of the things that we talked about are going to be the same. You want to make sure that whoever you're going to have that call with has that script of what you want them to say. And by script, I don't mean call center script. I mean the pitch. And as the leader, you've developed that pitch. That's what you want people to say. That's what you want people to highlight. But it's not just about reading, because you don't want them to read. You want them to live it, feel it, be that pitch. And how do you get there? You get there with practice. You have mock calls. You have a fake phone on the desk. Hey, and you have the other person on the other line. You just do it that way. It seems very rudimentary, but the more you do it, the more comfortable it becomes. And the more you do it, the more common it becomes. It's not this, oh, I got to call the CEO and get on his calendar and do this pitch. There's no fright. It's just, hey, it's normal. This is what I do. So practice. If you have a member who's going to be doing cold call pitches, who isn't as confident in themselves, then you need to take them offline. Give them a little bit more opportunity for a training environment in a less high-level engagement. Have them do the pitch or the calls to maybe another department that you're wanting to engage with. Get them at the lower level. Let them have a couple of wins to boost their own confidence, because unless they have confidence in themselves, they're not going to come across that way. Again, that practice, that experience is going to be what your team needs to be able to get those cold calls out there. Now, how do you get them the credibility so that when the exec on the other end for the CEO picks up and goes, who's this person from IT calling me and wanting to get on the boss's calendar? I don't know this person. Power of 8's going to get that person noticed. So you make that call and it's like, yeah, he's not free until next November, click. It's like, okay, great, fine, make a note. You call back, maybe not that same day, but okay, we got to get on the CEO's calendar, but let's make another call tomorrow. And you call again, and you keep calling. The executive is either going to say, wait a minute, who are you and why are you still calling, which is that perfect in for the pitch, or that executive's going to get a hold of you as the team lead and say, hey, you have an employee named so-and-so and they're calling about X. I don't know why. That means you as a leader then takes over as the pitch. But either way, the more you reach out and engage, the more likely is that you're going to get on the calendar. So again, practice. Absolutely have a good pitch ready to go for them. And then for those employees that don't have that confidence that you're comfortable with, have them work on a lesser level, build up that experience, get them a couple of home runs so that when it comes to the big time, they'll be able to do it because they've been doing it with their eyes closed. So sorry, we've already done our story time. I just wanted to throw this in there because I like this picture of Jonathan. And we've already had our Q&A, so I just wanted to leave you with, again, pitching. It's not as hard as you think it is. Everyone gets fearful of it, and we crawl back into our comfort zone because we don't want to put ourselves out there. We don't want to be rejected, and oh my gosh, if he says no, what am I going to do? The world does continue. You can move on. How do we build that elevator pitch? Right here, we just did it. Get out a 3x5 card. Write out what it is you want to say. Type it on a computer. Check to see how many words you have. If it's a page and a half long, it's too long for an elevator pitch. If it is full of lots of words and run-on sentences and dangling modifiers and things of that nature, edit it out. If you speak it and it doesn't sound right, then it's not right. So make that effort every time you need to go in front of a leader or a new client or a new customer. Take those simple steps. There is no one above sitting down and building that perfect pitch. And then the power of 8. Don't give up. Keep doing it. By the 8th time, you're either going to get the call back that says, hey, we already got this, where you still get an in because you can say, that's great. I'm sure your company that you're working with is probably doing some great things, but I'd really like to get on your calendar to show you some unique things that we might be able to marry up with that company and make your lives better.
Right.
The moment they call you, you are in charge. They will remember your name at the very least because you're going to have been on their speed dial list from their callback for all that time. So with that, I thank you very much for your time and letting me share this opportunity with you. I wish you the best of success. Go out there, get new business, go out there, get your new budgets, and enjoy the environment.
Great. I think we actually have one more question.
Awesome. I love questions.
Well, I think they're still writing, and I'll give a couple more people a chance.
Sure.
Is there any DoD land horror stories that you can tell us about pitching or something like that?
Yes. So let me think a minute so I can sanitize my brain. So I was overseas working in England. My leadership core was on the continent in Germany. And so every morning we had to give briefings and status updates of this and that. And this particular day, I was to give a briefing on an event of whether or not something was going to happen, which is always difficult to do. It's a toss-up. You know, if I can say something's going to happen, it's probably because it's been on CNN. So I am prepared to give this brief. I've practiced it. I'm ready to go. I'm polished. I'm looking right at my leader, who is in VTC land. And by the way, this wasn't the time when we did VTCs. I was on a 50-foot wall. So short Cindy Eccles' entire face was on a 50-foot wall. That's very challenging when you know you're being broadcast at that size to keep a straight face. But I gave my briefing, I gave my pitch about what I thought was going to happen, my confidence level. I exuded, credibility and confidence in what I was saying, and I knew my leader trusted me, and we were engaged, eye contact. And I gave the what, the so what, and here's, sir, what you need to do about it. And he said, okay, that was great. Thank you very much, Ms. Eccles. I appreciate your time. So I think I've done a great job, right? Everything is good. Everything is solid. I'm patting myself on the back. We're going to have donuts, and the whole team is going to celebrate. And I get the call. Says, yeah, by the way, that event you briefed, your assessment and all that was really good, but it happened last night, and it happened completely different from what you said was going to happen. It's like, okay, so not only did I fail to know that what I was briefing already occurred, but that my leader knew it, everybody else on the other side of the planet knew it, but me, and I was 100% wrong.
Oh man.
So that was hard to come back from, because that leader had a lot of trust in me. I had done a lot of work with the leader. I was on the speed dial, and for the most part, I was accurate and provided good information, timely, which is important in the military, and was on top of things. Now, the event, very few people knew had happened. He knew because he got called by the folks doing the event. So it's like, well, I'm not on that kind of a phone roster. So there wasn't a whole lot I could do to know that it had occurred. But it was still very difficult to climb back from, because I didn't do my due diligence in the morning to make phone calls to say, hey, just check in, are the balloons up? What's going on? Who's done what? No, I woke up thinking I'm gonna have an extra 15 minutes of sleep because I got this. And I went in, had my great suit on, my hair was done, I was rocking, and no one was gonna tell me otherwise. Until I got that call that said, yeah, sorry, you were all wrong.
Did you get a chance to brief that leader again?
I did,
Yeah.
not in such a strategic need moment. Of course, we don't have those all the time, but I did it with a lot more humility.
Yeah.
And a lot more of, we don't know about X or Y, and we can only assume.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so a couple questions came in. So this one's from RJ45. Do you recommend creating unique swag to keep the companies in my thoughts, like Rubik's Cubes or fidget spinners or USB phone chargers, things like that?
Yeah, that's a great idea. The thing that you want to look at some point is your own budget. So like for me with my lookbooks, I can print those myself, so I'm running out of ink and paper, and I'm having to stock that back up. That's not a big deal, really. That's not a huge chunk of my budget, so I'm okay spending that money to do my own printing of that. If you're able to get those items that aren't going to break your bank or destroy your budget for your entire marketing plan, great. I would just ensure that you're not just sending them out willy-nilly. Have a purpose for that to go out. Have a couple with you whenever you go out. That way, if you run into a potential client in an elevator, and you can talk your pitch, you can say, and hey, by the way, here,
solve this Rubik's Cube.
Here's this Rubik's Cube. Solve this while we're talking. Or, oh, by the way, I have this extra pen, has my name and number on it in case my business card gets crumpled up. Please.
Here's this USB, stick it in your computer.
Yeah, I'd probably not go the USB route. You may want to just use that with your existing clients who trust you. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So this one is from Tracy Birch. What kind of verbal or nonverbal feedback can you look for to adjust your pitch while underway?
Body language is huge. And I'll tell you, it's a little bit strange doing this briefing with nobody else in the room but Chris and I, because you want to have that engagement. And we were talking about this earlier before we started the program. So I look, and eye contact is very important. I am constantly watching the audience, whether I'm giving a briefing at a conference or if I'm in a small room engagement. I am looking at everybody, not just the senior person involved. I am looking at everybody. If you see people with their books out and their pens, sometimes they're doing that because they're like, okay, I want to make them look like I'm actually writing down what they're saying, but I'm really doing my laundry list. Why do I say that? Because I've done that. If someone is actually listening to what you have to say, they will be looking at you. They hopefully won't have their arms crossed, because that's usually a defensive mode that says, you're not going to convince me. Sorry, you're just talking and wasting your time and my time.
Yeah.
If there's something like this where they've got their hands and they're up in the air and they're together, they're contemplating. They're trying to decide whether or not they're really looking at your idea and it's worthwhile. If they're leaning forward, let's say you're at a tabletop discussion, and they're leaning forward and they're listening and looking at you, they're interested. They want to know more. They're engaged. So I know you can't really see me well here, but I am treating the camera lens as all of you. So when I'm looking at that camera lens, I'm looking at Tracy and I'm engaging with you, and I want you to see my energy. You will, on the other side, if there's other people in the room, you'll be able to see that reaction. Now, if you're overpowering, like the girl was, where she wants to hit people in the face with her idea, if they're all kind of leaning back, then maybe you need to back off a little bit. Maybe you're a little bit too exuberant. If they're kind of like slumped in their chairs, or they're just kind of like this, or they're just doodling, then maybe you need to step up your game. You need to be a little bit more excitable, be a little bit more outgoing. It's hard to do, especially for introverts. I'm an introvert. COVID-19 is no big deal for me because I stay at home all the time. I like being by myself. I like being alone. But I have to be in front of people. So I try to ensure that I am engaging. I talk slowly. I do those dramatic pauses so everyone stops and goes, oh my gosh, what did she say? Because I have to know, because someone's going to ask me about it later. Little things like that is how you're going to get people to stay engaged. From a verbal feedback, you can ask for that. If someone actually says, you know what, that's great, but I'm just really not interested. Well, so what is it that you're not interested in? Are you concerned with the budget? Are you concerned with how the plan would work, or do you not think the product's going to work well with your company? How can I help understand what it is that you need? So that, again, gives you an opportunity to then dive a little bit deeper into their own problem. So look for that. If they just sit there and nod their head and go, okay, thank you very much, that's when you need to start looking at your call to action. All right, great. Well, I'm glad you liked my presentation. How about I send over some forms and we'll get our agreements done and we'll start to work on your problem. Because then they're going to go, oh, whoa, wait, did I agree to something here? Maybe we need to talk about this a little bit more. Okay, fabulous. How about you get your decision makers together and I'll give them a deep dive on this issue. Mm-hmm. So you're the one who gets to control that tempo. And that's how you'll look at that feedback. They don't say anything, solicit it. So what do you think? How do you view this as supporting your company? If they say, I don't know how that helps my company, then you need to look at your audience profile and did you really hit the right target with what it is you're pitching?
Cool. Yeah. And I think that is pretty much all the questions. So yeah, that was great. So
Cy Young.
Yeah,
yes,
Cy Young. So
the masterful Cy Young.
Ty, well, you said you'd give them a photo shoot, right?
Yep.
So maybe Ty and his wife, they can
Absolutely.
get couples photos. That'd be kind of nice.
Absolutely.
As long as you wear your Undercroft shirt, Ty, then that's cool. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. That was great. Yeah, public speaking and speaking in front of people seems counterintuitive to everything in my being. I'm like the person behind the scenes, and so yeah, I'm gonna try to look into that power of 8 a little bit. Next week we've got Sean Latona doing his talk, The Master of Puppets, on Tuesday for the Classified series.
Hey, Chris, can I just throw one thing out there?
Yeah, please.
For everyone that was tuning in and listening to Chris give his announcements where he was saying the call to papers for additional briefs, this is a tremendous environment for you to get in front of people and practice some of the things that we've talked about. If you're not comfortable giving briefings, this is a great place to be. You've got your guild. You're all working together for a common good. This is not a threatening environment. So anybody out there who's got something not even related to cyber, if you've got something like this that you want to throw out there, take this opportunity because it really will help you strengthen yourself as you go out to clients and executives with your product. So I just wanted to give you a shout
Yeah,
out.
no,
on that.
and I think, and I thought this would be interesting. I mean, it wasn't technical on the cyber side, but it's still, there's so many things that translate from industry to industry, and we all have bosses, we all have things that we need to, projects that we want approved and things like that. So, yeah, Tracy just said we need a UC Toastmasters chapter, which I would I would love that, because I would like to do more public speaking, things like that.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so yeah, tune in next Tuesday for the Classified series for Sean. And yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night.